Good morning, everyone. I'm also really pleased to see that many of you made the journey back in the dark from the wonderful beach party yesterday. It was a beautiful setting, and I can disclose that I was not on the dance floor. That would made my daughter really, really embarrassed. So I think it's my first time at the Next Pharma conference, and I'm really happy to be here. I think it's listening yesterday to all the wonderful colleagues, lots of learnings and lots of great exchange. We probably need a few days more to keep the discussions going. I'm Henriette Lonkvist. I work for Ferring Pharmaceuticals. I'm in a global role as a global head of CRM. And I've been in this role for about a year and a half. It's a fairly new role that we created in order to really increase and enhance customer engagement. So we've talked a lot about, and listening, we've talked a lot about customer journeys and where we want to go and what our ambitions are, many ways of approaching it, stakeholders, etc. I have a background as a business unit head. I've headed up sales and field forces, MSLs, marketeers, you name it, across many different therapy areas for a long time. And I think we can stay at the strategy level, we can talk about models, et cetera, but for us it was really important to get very practical. How do we embark on this journey in becoming better at customer engagement, now, enhanced by COVID, and also for the future? So that's what I would like to share with you today. And full disclosure, I am obsessed with change management, not so much from the theory books, and I think we've all read a lot of those, but really from the practical execution. How do we win the hearts and the minds and get our teams along the journey with us? So that's what I would like to do today. And just, again, full disclosure, I worked in many different industries. Some of you may remember the L'Oreal slogan, "Because I'm worth it." That was me as a marketeer. But I lost my heart to pharma about 2 decades ago, and I think once pharma, always pharma. It's about patients and therapies and how we can help patients live the best lives possible. Just also full disclosure, I'm not technical, so if you have a lot of technical questions, we are out of time, and you're going to have to save them for another day. And I'm also, as you will see on my timelines, super impatient. So I think there is a sense of urgency needed in our industry. We've talked about we need to catch up, and I think that's something that we all need to think about. How do we do that? I don't know how many of you know Ferring Pharmaceuticals. We're a medium-sized pharma company. We're headquartered in beautiful Switzerland by Lake Geneva. We're had the pleasure of working for many years in a European role. And we have just recently opened our Pharma Science Center, which is based in Copenhagen. So if you fly into Copenhagen, you're sitting on the right-hand side. You might get the view of this amazing, amazing building. We're privately held, about 6,000 employees, and I usually say we're in 75 markets because we have CRM, OC in 75 markets that I'm responsible for. But yeah, wide representation. One of our specialty fields is reproductive medicine, maternal health, which is my baby, but we also do urology, uro-oncology, gastroenterology, etc. So what I wanted to share with you today, and I have a lot of content, and my colleague said yesterday, you have way too much content, so bear with me if I do have to kind of work my way through the slides fairly quickly, but we can have discussions offline afterwards. But I wanted to give you a little bit about the background. Where did we come from when we talk about bringing in new tools, AI, and especially with focus on the change management process as mentioned. We have put in place a pilot, which is what I'm going to share with you. We are almost coming to the end of the pilot, which we've had to extend for certain little hiccups along the way. But I wanted to share some of those practical examples with you. Hopefully you can not fall into the same pitfalls as we have done, but they're critical in finding our way in increasing the customer engagement and enhancing that customer engagement journey. Why did we do this? Well, I think, like many of you, we are an industry under a bit of pressure. As I said, sense of urgency, we need to catch up. We have come a long way, especially since COVID and our customer engagement. We just talked about channels, content, etc. Personalization, we do personalized medicine, but we also need to take leaps and bounds forward in when we talk about personalized customer engagement and being relevant. So we looked at this and we said, well, how do we increase our commercial effectiveness? How do we do more with less in a shorter space of time? And how can we really have the increased enhanced customer journey as the outcome of this? And how do we explore the different tech options to bring in, to enhance the way that we, it was just mentioned, how do we pick content? How do we be relevant? We don't just share a one-size-fits-all with everybody. And having had field forces for my entire career, how do we support them? How do we help them? How do we move them from having admin days, 3 admin days? No, you need to have as little admin time as possible and make sure that your time, your field force, your customer-facing is with your customers, either face-to-face or virtually, as we've also become accustomed to. So making life easier for these guys, they need to be on board. And another, looking ahead, how do we keep up with development, bringing in new talent, but also upskilling the field force that we have, because it's not just firing everybody who do not appreciate this and bringing in new talent. You have to make sure that you address everybody. And if we look at this journey, how many of your reps signed up to be a full-blown omnichannel orchestrator, personalizing everything in your channels, your content, what you're sharing, etc.? So we have certainly seen, and COVID really accelerated this from sitting in the kitchen, having a WebEx that didn't work, and from what was just discussed, face-to-face. We all loved face-to-face. There's nothing more, I think, enriching in sitting face-to-face with one of your KOLs, one of your customers, and having those really engaging conversations. And it's a full-blown orchestration with many interaction points. So how do we help them? How do we bring them along this journey? What our mission is really to take commercial excellence to the next level, going from the traditional face-to-face, becoming that 360 HCP personalized orchestrators. But that's not easy. However, we have CRM, most of us. We have tons of insights. We have tons of data. Maybe we want more data, but we know more. And yesterday somebody said, do we know our customers? I actually feel we know our customers quite well, but we need to make sure that all of that knowledge is not necessarily just sitting in the heads of myself seeing customers, our reps, MSLs, etc. It has to go into that CRM system. My reps have always thought predominantly of the CRM system as being a call logging tool, right? So you can track how many calls I have a day. No, this is a system that we can become more sophisticated. We have our consent as well. Consent is crucial. No consent, no interaction. So driving all of those different pieces in consent, your preferences, your HCPs, no two HCPs are the same. No customer cohort is the same. So you have to also have your segmentation and all your preferences and behaviors in there. But we can now bring in these algorithms. We can bring in AI. We can bring in Gen AI as the next step in order to become more sophisticated and work towards that personalization and become the omnichannel masters that at the end of the day will provide better customer experience. So me on my mission, heavily inspired by a course I took last year, I went to our headquarters and I roamed the CEO corridor trying to lobby for this. And I was really excited when our top CEO said, bring it on. I said, perfect, I have the mandate. Our Sandoz colleague talked about yesterday how important it is to get senior management endorsement. It's critical. Then I worked my way through the corridor, and one of our regional VPs said, yeah, but remember, we're not Google, we're not Microsoft, we're still pharma, meaning we're still traditional. We're not at that level yet, but it's a good beginning. And then our COO said, really excited to see the first results. And the last one, but we need more data first. And then I thought, yeah, true, because data is sitting many places. And we have most recently, my colleague Monica from the panel yesterday is also here. We have been on a journey for 6 months to bring our MSLs into the CRM, because as was just discussed, it is a collaboration, right? Firewalls, everything, yes, but it's a collaboration, and we cannot continue to be siloed. We are a team, and if you had seen me in my previous role as business unit director, my medic was joined at the hip with each our roles, each our functions, but we are teams, and we need to address our customers as teams. So what comes first? Do you sit there forever and ever and you keep banging on about how much more data you need in that CRM system? Or do you try to say, yeah, maybe that's true. However, we need to demonstrate to the field force, because again, as I said, it's the hearts and the minds, right? If we don't get these guys excited about it, we're not going to get them to collect more data. We're not going to get them to see the value of utilizing data. It's a chicken or the egg. I decided we're going to have to just go and see where it takes us. So the journey that we have been on is, for the past 3 months, is we liaised with our partner, IQVIA, and we decided we need to embark on the next best action program. The objectives, let's not start too big. We need to start, I live in the UK, I'm Danish national, grew up in the US, hence the accent. However, I've been in the UK for the past 10 years, and we have a program called BBC Bite Size. You use it for your kids when they're studying for exams, and this is my approach to it, BBC Bite Size. Don't just try to roll everything out in one go. Take it bit by bit and get your teams on board, and as excited about it as you are. So this is our journey. We are here now. We decided that if we do not demonstrate value to the sales force, forget it. We've all been where we bring in different applications, different systems, and we spend half an hour on a cycle meeting saying, this is a new thing, you're going to go off here, you're trained, and you're going to go off and do it. Nothing happens. So you have to demonstrate that value, because otherwise you can forget about all your fancy strategies. So we decided on which use cases could we help them with to accelerate beyond the face-to-face and become more agile in their interactions with the customers. And in the pilot that we put together, the local team, which is a UK pilot, I happen to be based in the UK as well, know the team really well, so this was a good place to start. Don't make it more difficult than it has to be. And we said to the team, what would you like this tool? This is your tool, what would you like to call it? And they decided that for us now in Ferring, this is our next best AI coach. I mentioned I'm super impatient. I have adjusted the timelines. Normally, I don't think you would see timelines this condensed. However, sense of urgency, demonstrate results, and we decided, so we spent December getting the funding, as I mentioned, roaming the halls of the corridors of the CEO, et cetera, putting a pilot in place. Already in the middle of January, we had the first virtual launch meeting with the team, the pilot team, which is the specialty brands team in the UK. And then we had a face-to-face launch meeting. I'll come on to that. This is not a Teams, half an hour on a cycle meeting rollout. You have to have people face-to-face when you launch programs like this. So you can look them in the eye and you can see how this is being taken on board. We designed a pilot and we started, well, I'll show you in a second, with all the different stakeholders. And there are many. It's a big program. And we decided, we heard also yesterday, how important communication is. It's not just about the pilot team, it's about the wider organization. We are now here in the pilot scope, the big blue one here in the middle, and we have also done surveys just to understand also anonymously how people are feeling about it and what kind of progress were made. And then we have to develop a business case in order to get funding for the rollout, but that will come in due course. So the 3 use cases that we decided on that would introduce this new tool to the field force and to help them, as I said, minimize administration, be more efficient, commercial effectiveness in their roles. So we decided that our customers, sales reps still see our HCPs, our customers face-to-face. Hopefully, most of the time, they will bring the detail aid out of the bag, and they will show maybe a 150-page CLM presentation. I think there's a bit of work for marketeers there also to work on the content. But how do you follow up? You might have 300 target customers. How do you follow all of those up? So help in saying, you had a face-to-face, you discussed certain messages, now it's time to follow up. See what your HCP, your customers thought. We all have tons of meetings. We have conferences, et cetera, et cetera. Again, how do you follow them up? So you don't just host an event, off they go, off your sales reps go, and there's no, you could say, direct link between the customers that were there and how you follow them up. How do you prioritize that cohort and follow the best leads that you can? Again, commercial effectiveness. So reminding the field force of how do you do that? Who do you go to? Who do you see? How do you plan better? How do you become more efficient in your work? And the last but not least was also send an email, send a rep-triggered email, MSL-triggered email. And we also know that people get tons of emails, and not all emails get opened. So the ones that actually do get opened, you might not know about it. But here, the rep gets, the email was actually opened. You should follow up, because clearly there's an interest in what you are communicating. And these are just explanations, deeper explanations, and I'm happy to show anybody who's interested and discuss it more as to how do you do that and what are those processes in utilizing these use cases. And again, the events, meetings follow up. We all spend tons of money on conferences and meetings, and they should not just be an event. They really should be something we can benefit from in our lead generation. So how do we integrate this with OC? Obviously, the iPad is the main tool for the field force. They open this, hopefully, every day. And every day, we send the notifications, right? So they open, and this is Mira's iPad. So I took this photo when I met her with her face-to-face. She's one of our champions. They're also important to have in London last week. And she showed me, look at this, just open my iPad, getting the notifications. I'll decide what to do with that and act on it. And that's how it works. So the reps will get all the notifications, the suggestions. They will decide whether that fits with their scenario of that HCP. Because obviously, the reps who own the HCPs are the ones who know best, right? The system doesn't know whether, well, actually, I just happened to have a phone call from this HCP yesterday, or something else. So they have to decide whether this is a relevant suggestion. Are they going to act on it positively, negatively? And if not, then tell us why, so we can learn and we can keep refining the system and make it as relevant as possible. It goes without saying that I did not do all this on my own. Far from. We put together, and again, back to the change management, super important that you have all the relevant stakeholders, both from compliance, from skills and capabilities, but what is also super, super important is these guys up here. Ben and Steve are the two national sales managers. They are your direct link to the field force. You need to have them on board from the get-go, and you keep the contact and the feedback and the interactions going. And compliance, privacy, global medical, commercial excellence, and a really good project manager. So if you look up all the different articles that all the consultancy houses have on this, I think they're spot on. We have rolled out many CRM systems. We've rolled out many different applications. Usually, it's something that happens in IT, and they will contact you, me, as a previous business unit head, saying, can I have half an hour on your next cycle meeting because I need to just demonstrate something, a new tool to the field force? And I said, sure, and I'll go off and do something else, probably do emails or something else in the meantime. And most of the process in implementing new systems, new tools, et cetera, technological advancements, you spend 70% of the time in ensuring all the data flows and the processes and the systems are speaking to one another, et cetera. And, as I said, you spend the minimum amount of time on the human element. Why are we doing this? What are we looking to achieve? What's the value to you? How are you going to benefit from us doing this? Is it just because we got a better deal? No. So all of those pieces are super important, and there's a reason why 70% of transformation fail. So we need to get wiser at that. We need to take it on board, and we need to get practical. So for us, I said there are 3 things that are super important in this pilot. We want to try to get it right. We didn't, but we want to try. So understanding the stakeholders, all of the stakeholders understanding, why are we doing this? What are the benefits? What are the objectives? Plan it. We talked about sponsorship. You can't do this alone. You need the sponsorship. You also need the funding. And the governance is critical. And then you start by implementing the change in the bite size, as I mentioned. And communicate. Share it, not just with your pilot team, but with the wider organization. And this one is critical too. Set up your whole internal structure, your governance, your network, your stakeholders. Be super structured about it. And make sure you have a great external provider, a partner, because you're going to be working super closely together, and you need them to guide you, to provide their subject matter experts into your team, right? But the most important piece is the change management program. And this is a lot, and I'm not going to have time, unfortunately, to go through it all. But I just want to say, do not make any shortcuts when you talk about change management. It's so many things. You need to look at what's the immediate team, who are going to be your enablers to have build a successful business case that you can use to scale, to convince the top bosses that this is a good idea and we're going to take this forward. It's not going to stay at a pilot. We do a lot of pilots. We don't want to stay at a pilot. This is the future. We want to make it work. And then, as you can see here, I've highlighted all those critical people, your first-line managers. I don't know how many of you feel that your first-line managers are your advocates for CRM, for instance. You need them. You need them on board because they are the ones who will continue to support and drive the process. The infrastructure, all the processes, there's tons of things there that I'm not capable of. Luckily, that's where you have all your commercial infrastructure and your IT partners, and communication and the senior buy-in. Also in the local markets, not just at the CEO hallway. The key takeaways for me in this process has been, you have to be inclusive. I'm not maybe always a consensus person, that my impatience does not really do consensus. However, it's super important, and you have to be engaging. That's also where the communication comes in. And you keep the momentum going. Keep the drive and make sure that you do this, you don't make any shortcuts, because it is, as I say here, it's critical. I would say you're not going to be successful without it. This was the launch, and if you look at this guy down here, this is one of my favorite people, Neil, and you might say, ooh, he looks a little bit concerned. So this was the face-to-face training, full day, the morning. Why are we doing this? What's the benefit, the value to you? And the training, which buttons do we push? You're not going to walk out of that room before you feel confident and you feel convinced that this will provide value to you. And luckily, as you can see up here, they look pretty happy. So off we went, and it was also important to say, this is not another tracking tool. This is a tool we're putting in place to make your life easier, and that's what we want to do. We want to increase the engagement we have with our customers, the frequency, and the impact. And then we launched one of these, my favorite new surveys, and as you can see here, I don't know if you all know the Net Promoter Score. That's kind of what we use to also survey. 0 is good. Anything above 0, 20 is good, and anything above that is pretty good. So I was super happy, 46. So we obviously asked them how they felt about it before the training, and if they would find that it would provide value in their daily roles as sales reps. And this all is pretty positive. We were quite happy after that day. And again, as I said, internal communication. We use Viva. Viva, I think it was called Yammer before, and we do a lot of posts, and that's important. I like this little quote because change management, you're never going to get it completely right, but you need to start. You need to jump in it, and maybe as per last night, maybe you do need to do that dance, but go for it. However, we're not going to move beyond this pilot unless I can show some tangible outcome of this. It has to be a combination of, yeah, it was positively received, but my senior management, they're going to ask, what do the numbers look like? We are a business after all. So for us, it was a combination, right? Again, what I call the human factors. How do you feel about it? What's the value? But also the hardcore numbers. Not going to go into detail with this, but this is obviously just to show you that we launched the suggestions, and every week we're tracking what's the pickup of suggestions, are they being used, are they being declined, and as you will see here, we had a massive dip here in March, right? And I was horrified. So what's wrong? It turned out that when you define all of this, you really have to spend time in setting the criteria right. Don't shortcut that, because what you put in, garbage in, garbage out. I'm not saying we put garbage in, but I'm saying spend time on your criteria. Test it. Are you putting in the right meetings? When you want the reps to follow up on meetings and events, are you feeding the machine with the right meetings? Answer is no, we were not. And we also decided to do a territory realignment in the middle of it. That does not work, so don't do that. And obviously, we learned from that. We quickly, together with our partner, corrected this, and luckily, the numbers went up. But this meant that the reps were not getting as many suggestions as they were expecting. So a misalignment between expectations and an outcome. However, these numbers that I'm showing you here are some of the numbers that I need to go back home and make a business case for this, right? So we had another 500, in a short space of time, another 550 RTEs that were sent by this pilot team to their HCPs, and they were opened. And when you go in and you look at how you can convert that to this multi-channel equivalence, that was another 85 additional face-to-face calls. Many of the markets have a limitation to how many proactive calls you can make to HCPs, and we all talked about expanding on the face-to-face, right? So here, we are engaging with more customers, more touch points by adding the RTEs in. And when you think about what a sales rep costs, probably more or less the same in each of our companies, this, again, in a short space of time, equals to adding another full-time rep to your customer, seeing customers. So I don't know about you, but I think my senior VP of sales will be quite pleased with that. We also looked at the frequency. Again, frequency, getting more, commercial effectiveness, etc. Versus last year, it was a 93% uplift in frequency. I know that numbers like that will also be popular when I put in my wish for more funding to continue the rollout. But again, it's all down to the field force, because they are the ones who are going to carry this forward. So when, again, I saw, what happened before and after, right? Zero, zero is still okay, but what happened? So again, having constant calls, touch base, evaluations with all these different stakeholders, I quickly discovered that they were still positive. They actually said that they found that this was adding value to OC. Hooray. Finally, somebody thinking something positive about CRM and logging data in CRM. And it was, as you can see here, also positive that they would like to expand on the program. That was obviously super important. If they said, no, we're going to stop here, don't like it, no value, that would be a tough one. But they were overridingly positive as to, valuable tool to assist me in my role, and yes, we should continue the journey. The reason for the drop in the NPS was down to one thing, the mismatch I mentioned before between expectations and notifications and what they were receiving. So we have now extended the pilot by a month. The suggestions have gone up, and I will do this again in a month to check. Lots of positive feedback again. Neil, I showed you before, said that this was the closest to having a personal assistant. That's pretty good. It's not simple. However, I was expecting the reps to be more negative. I think the change management progress changed that. So don't forget. You need the cross functions as well. And you will have bumps, like we had bumps along the road. Don't give up. Keep going. And make sure that you don't just look to the final outcome, but you also enjoy the ride. Next steps for us, I will now take all the outcome, the results, again, both the human side, the technical, or the data, the outcome on that side, and put into a business case, and then we will continue our journey. And I've set a deadline for the end of the year, so we are on a mission. Obviously, you need the data. So CRM is important, but again, the chicken or the egg. Don't forget the change management. It has really taught me that that is one of the most crucial factors in this. And the acceptance and the emphasis on the entire organization on continuing that commercial excellence evolution. Commercial excellence is about customer engagement, customer journeys, and at the end of the day, serving our HCPs and our patients together. And we will continue to learn. Luckily, none of us, I think, are done doing that. And at the end of the day, do we really have a choice? I think just all the conversations we've had over yesterday, last night, etc., show that we don't. And thank God for that. Keeps us off the streets, right? So thank you to the entire team. I don't want to forget that. This has not been a one-man show. It has been a wonderful cross-functional collaboration. Also, thank you to IQVIA for supporting us on the journey. As mentioned, you need that. And thank you to all of you for listening. And I don't know if there's no, Daria is saying no time. Happy to connect. Anybody who wants to discuss this, I'm obsessed with this. And And I think we have so much to do in pharma, so happy to discuss with anybody who would like to do that offline. LinkedIn is obviously a good connector as well. Thank you.